Hello and welcome everyone to the daily news analysis of 14th of February 2024। तो स्टार्ट करने से पहले सभी को शुभ सरस्वती पूजा। चलिए शुरू करते हैं। सेंटर rolls out MSP law offers talk with farmers, pause in draft in India, EFTA pact may hit drug industry, then homeward bound, salutary reminder, old-fashioned trust and credibility bind India-UAE ties, then why India needs deep industrialization on the right of the forest dwellers, then food prices may keep inflation high। तो फर्स्ट आर्टिकल आज का है सेंटर रूल्स आउट एमएसपी लॉ ऑफर्स टॉक विथ फार्मर्स। As the protest by farmers groups escalated into a full-blown conflict with the security forces at various points on the Haryana-Punjab boundary on Tuesday, the union government yet again made it clear that announcing a guaranteed minimum support price, the key demand of farmers, will not be possible. The government, however, offered a third round of talks with the leaders of the groups. The protests were led by the Samyuk संयुक्त किसान मोर्चा non-political SKMNP, a splinter group of संयुक्त किसान मोर्चा and the Kisan Mazdoor Morcha KMM, the constituent SKM, urged Prime Minister Narendra Modi to intervene and stop using force against the farmers, asked the SKM-NP to stop fighting separately and support the rural and industrial strike on February 16. Union Agriculture Minister Arjun Munda and Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur asked the farmer to be wary of disruptive elements in their movement. Mr. Munda told the media that on a law for guaranteed MSP, the center had to look at all sides of it. The opposition jumped into the scene with the Congress saying it would implement a guaranteed MSP if it came to power. Farmers have been invited for yet another round of talks, which is likely to be held on Wednesday. The two rounds of discussion, led by Mr. Munda and Mr. Piyush Goyal, has collapsed. We will wait for the outcome of it talks, and if it fails, farmers will breach the blockades and start marching to the Delhi, said KB Biju, a senior leader of SKM-NP. He said more than 60 farmers were injured in the lathi charge and firing of rubber bullets and tear gases shell on them by the police. Meanwhile, the anticipation of the march, the boundary of the capital remained heavily barricaded. More than 100 of barricades with barbed wires were set up between a 7 kilometer stretch on the Singhu border in Kundli in Haryana. Teams of Delhi Police and RAPF were also deployed strategically at all points along with the anti-riot gears. Some entry and exit gates of select metro stations near important installations, including Parliament, have been shut as prohibitory orders remain in force. Heavy police deployment was also witnessed on Delhi's border with Uttar Pradesh, the Delhi-Noida direct and flyaway Gazipur border, and other prominent locations were under security. Movement for ambulance and other emergencies vehicles was also made difficult. Despite the police attempts to ensure smooth traffic flow at these borders, scuffle with police, farmers had scuffles with the Haryana police at various places along the Punjab border, and police resorted to the use of tear gases through drones and water cannons to disperse the agitators from Punjab. Farmers had come in hundreds of tractor trolley convoys by pushing and throwing away the multi-layer barricades they were carrying essential supplies including food, medicine, clothes, etc. Several of them tried to forcefully remove barricades and threw stones at the police personnel. Agitated farmers were also seen vandalizing flyover safety barrier on the Sambhu border. According to police, 24 police personnel were injured in the stone pelting during the protest who have been hospitalized at the government hospitals. A senior police officer confirmed to the Hindu that a few protesters were detained who were later released. KMM coordinators Sarwan Singh Pandher hit out at the center for attacking the farmers and farm laborers marching towards Delhi. Mr. Pandher said the farmers responded to the force by hurling stones, urging Mr. Modi to intervene. SKM said in a letter to him that the repression unleashed on movement in India is united and single-minded and will resist any such act of authoritarianism and excessive use of state power. In an appeal to SKM NP, the original SKM said various Kisan organizations and platforms are fighting on the same and common demands. Hence, all the like-minded organizations should make an effort to build a common and united struggle on these issues. The next article is clause, clause in draft India EFTA pact may hit drug industry. A clause in a draft free trade agreement text being negotiated between India and the European Free Trade Association, Switzerland, Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway could delay access to affordable generic versions of the patented drug in India by a minimum of 6 years, according to the documented documents viewed by the Hindu. A leaked draft of the Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement says that within 6 months of agreement being signed, signatories should include a specific duration during which applicants seeking constant from their country's regulators to sell a drug would not rely on undisclosed test data to gain market approval for at least 6 years. The signatories here refer to countries and applicants being the pharmaceuticals companies. The undisclosed test data in this case is on the drug's efficacy and impact on the people. There is also a line in the draft which is available on the website bilateral.org that suggests this should apply not only to new chemical drugs but also a class of drugs called biologics drugs. Monoclonal antibodies vaccine formulation that involve a complex mixture of organic and inorganic entities and are harder to make copies of. Many Indian biotechnology companies are developing biologic drugs. The Hindu has independently confirmed the existence of this clause from sources India, which has over the decades mushroomed a thriving generic drugs drug industry has registered attempts by foreign pharmaceutical companies to extend monopoly rights over patented drugs. This is mostly because India's generic drug industry has over the years made affordable versions of expensive drugs and become a large global supply itself. The Indian pharma industry is the third largest in the world and produces over 60,000 generic drugs across 60 therapeutic categories and had an annual turnover of 3.4 lakh crore rupees. Minister of State, Chemical and Fertilizer Bhagwant Khurba told the Parliament in July 2023 on availability of drugs. These effectively mean that drugs such as betaquine for TB under provision of data exclusivity would not be available, said Gopa Kumar, legal researchers Third World Network in the most recent round of EFTA negotiations that were held in the Delhi from January 8 to 13. Media reports suggest that officials from both delegations have moved closer to a deal. Swiss Economy Minister Guy Parmelin, who heads the EFTA, posted on X last month after he flew to India On a last-minute invitation of the India's e-commerce minister Piyush Goyal for negotiations on TEPA, following which they had reached a balanced solution to concern around the agreement. Which details of these solutions are not public intellectual property. Concerns are a major sticking point. Patented drugs gives exclusive marketing rights to inventors or whoever applies for the patent trial drugs and medicines because being unaffordable in several countries including in India under internationally accepted provisions of compulsory licensing. Indian law allows markets to reserve engineer and sell generic and copycat versions of the drugs after only 3 years of it being patented in India. The next article is homeward bound. Quiet diplomacy with brinkmanship helped India's case in Qatar. The release of all eight former Indian naval personnel from Qatar just about 3 months after they were ordered a stalking death sentence is a matter of great relief. Ever since the 8 men, 7 senior retired national naval officers and a sailor who worked for the Qatar-based Dhara technology were arrested in 2022, the details of their case have been sparse while their families denied reports that the men had been accused of espionage possible for a third country, namely Israel. The charges must have been serious enough to have invoked the death penalty and appeal court did in December commute the death penalty to imprisonment terms but upheld the conviction. It is to the government's credibility credit that it was able to bring about a release of all the eight, seven of whom have now returned. The success seems attributable to the strategies New Delhi employed to pursue the case in court, showing respect to the Qatar legal systems while providing the accused with full legal support and counsel. Avoid all es- escalatory rhetoric and public sparings and to take the case to the highest level with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi discussing it with the Qatari Amir Sheikh Tamim bin Ahmad Al Thani during a meet in Dubai in December that Mr. Modi announced an unscheduled leg of travel to Doha on Wednesday after his ongoing trip to the United Arab Emirates signifies his personal involvement and his desire to thank the Qatari Amir. The Qatar case is a timely reminder of the importance of quiet diplomacy at a time of brinkmanship and geopolitical conflict, particularly when it comes to relationships where so much else is at the stake. For India, Qatar is an important West Asian power with increased heft during the Israel-Gaza conflict as an important interlocutor between the West and Hamas. For Qatar ties with India are historic and dependable, consistent even when Qatar was boycotted by its Gulf neighbors some years ago. Qatar supplies India with a third of its natural gas import needs, and the signing of a $78 billion LNG deal last week may have been an early sign that the deal for the prisoners released have been sealed by then. More than 8 lakh Indians provided important services to Qatar and bring in critical remittances earning for India. New Delhi's decision not to seek international intervention as it did in the case of former naval commander Kulbhushan Yadav, who has been convicted of espionage and terror charges in Pakistan, not to counter Qatar's charges with the kind of harsh diplomatic counter measures seen in the aftermath of Niger assassination's case in Canada, eventually provided an outcome satisfactory for all. The next article is salutary reminder inflation should not undermine overall macroeconomic stability. Retail inflation data for January provides a clear reminder as to why the RBI Monetary Policy Committee opted last week to not only hold benchmark interest rates but also chose to remain resolutely focused on achieving durable price stability while the data for consumer price index based price gain show the headline number having eased from December 5.69% to a 3-month low of 5.10% last month. Inflation reading for key food items including cereals, vegetables and pulses continued to stay elevated at 7.83%, 27% and 19.5% respectively, despite moderating from December's levels. Among the vegetables subgroups, 12 of the 19 items monitored by the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy CMIE posted accelerations in the year-on-year price gains last month from their readings in December, signaling that the underlying trend in inflation is persistently high. Cereals, which have the heaviest weight in the food group, also stayed stubbornly stuck in a higher trajectory with the month-on-month inflation for the subgroups that includes the key staple of rice barely nudging lower at 0.75% compared with December's 0.76%. Rice was the primary drag, with its price at non-PDS outlets accelerating both sequentially and year-on-year by 1.02% and a 6-month high pace of 13% respectively. With a recent CMIE estimate for Rabi showing of rice, revealing a 2.7% drop from the last year, and the prospect of prices softening significantly in the near future appears remote. The data on reservoir storage levels also add to the disquiet on the outlook for prices, particularly for food items with water storage at 150 reservoirs, showing live storage on as on February 8 at 49% of capacity and lagging appreciably behind both the year earlier and average of the last 10 years levels. Output of the Rabi sown crops and including cereals and more particularly pulses are at risk of being impacted given foods large share in the overall consumption basket. Food price gains pose a wider risk to overall price stability both directly and through spillover to the prices of non-food items. As a research article by RBI officials concluded, the central bank's survey of households inflation expectations found the median inflation expectation for 3 months ahead rose by 10 bps from the previous survey in the November to 99.2% with a greater share of respondents 78% versus 74% 2 months ago, expecting inflation to accelerate in the near terms with talks between the government and some farmers groups breaking down and farmers threatening to intensify an agitation over demands that include assurance on a guaranteed minimum support price. Policymakers face a challenge to ensure inflation does not rebound and undermine overall macroeconomic stability. The next article is food prices may keep inflation high. A slight downtick in food prices, price inflation may have cooled retail inflation to a 3-month low of 5.1% in January, but most economists do not expect the pace of price rise faced by the consumers to slip much further in the near terms, with the prices of vegetables, cereals, and pulses still elevated. Consumer food prices inflation stood at 8.3% in January, tad between a tad below the 9.5% mark of December, but still sharply above October's 6.6% pace when retail inflation was at 4.87%. Inflation may not drop further from this 5.1% level in February as per high frequency vegetables price data. So far, HSBC economist IOC Chowdhury and Pranjul Bhandari said in a note on Tuesday, noting that prices of vegetables and other food items have held firm through the fast then Past 10 days of this month, cereals inflation may have cooled from 15 successive months of double-digit rise, but still remains high at 7.8%. India's rating and research economist Sunil Kumar Sinha and Paras Jasrai said higher food inflation continues to be a worry area for RBI because it has the potential of impacting the core inflation via wage prices spiral. They noted projecting the retail inflation to remain around 4.9% in February and March. Last week, RBI Governor Shaktikant Das had cautioned that recurring food prices stocks could interrupt the ongoing disinflation process with risk that it could lead to a de-anchored of inflation expectations and generalizations of price pressures. SBI Group Chief Economic Advisor Soumya Kanti Ghosh said that evolving food prices will determine domestic inflation and retail inflation is expected to remain slightly above 5% in the remaining 2 months of 23-24. The Reserve Bank of India has projected an average inflation of 5% for this quarter. Friends, this is all for today, and we will meet from tomorrow onwards with new news articles which are relevant from UPSC perspectives. So till then, keep studying and thank you for listening. Have a good day.